Hello, everyone, and welcome to another special edition of the Shooters Lounge podcast. I am Matt at Post Up 323. Don't forget to like and subscribe, guys, on the YouTube, and also you can follow us on the socials at Shooters Lounge 3. Continuing with the UK fan accounts, we're going to be talking. We've talked to quite a few UK fans throughout the last few weeks. Tonight, it's just kind of fallen in, and I think it's the right time that somebody wants to come on talking about this particular team, because tonight we're going to be talking the Minnesota Timberwolves. So tonight we're going to be talking to Joe from Minnesota Timberwolves UK. Is it, Joe? Is that right? Yeah.
Yep, it is.
Absolute pleasure to have you on, mate. Welcome to the Shooters Lounge podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me on. Yeah, thank you.
No, absolutely, mate. Thanks very much for agreeing to do it. So I'm sure you'll be okay with talking some Timberwolves basketball at the moment. Is that right?
I certainly will. Yeah, we're flying. Yeah,
absolutely.
We considering where we've been and where we are now, I'm more than happy to chat Wolves right now. No problem.
Absolutely. It might hit the heart a bit, a bit tough at the moment with me being a Suns fan, but more than happy to talk about the Timberwolves tonight. It makes it more sweeter, I think, doesn't it, man? When you've had them dark days, I think when they finally turn it around and you start to see some success, it feels a lot better, doesn't it? I'm sure.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, we have had the darkest of days, really. Let's be honest. I mean, there's as a franchise, I heard something fairly recently, up until about a year ago, where we lifted off the bottom of the worst. I hate the word, but winningest. The worst winningest team in all of American major sports. So ice hockey, American football, baseball, and obviously basketball in the NBA. And we were rooted at the bottom of that list for all four of those sports, the top divisions, as the worst franchise in major sports. So yeah, it's just nice to be off the bottom of that list, to be honest with you.
Just nice not to be bottom, mate, isn't it? Yeah. You'll take mid-table obscurity all day long.
We will. Or mind you, we might not anymore. But
this is it, mate. Success comes with the expectations, mate, doesn't it? So we'll dig right in. Got a few things that we want to cover. So first thing is how the season has been going. Obviously, we'll talk about the postseason, I think, but how did the regular season go for you, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, fantastic performance across the season, across the regular season. I think coming into the year, off the back of last season, expectations actually weren't particularly high. There was a lot of risk associated to the way that we put together the roster. We spent a lot of money, obviously, on bringing Rudy in. We chucked away a lot of future draft picks for that acquisition, and coming into the season, it really didn't work. If you think about last season, the two bigs thing didn't work. They didn't click. Rudy and Kat really at all. There was no chemistry. It was bitty with injuries, especially with Kat throughout last season as well. And we didn't come into the season with any certainly with hopes of going as far as we have done, in terms of the performance in the playoffs. I think, we may be expected to be a top 4, top 5 team. If we could have home court advantage, that would be brilliant. But obviously where we're at right now is, let's be honest, one of the favourites to do the whole thing, to lift the trophy. So it's been a real a real ride. You know, there was some huge highs this season and not many lows, and it's been built, I think, on the foundations of just brilliant defense. So
absolutely.
For context, we're the best defensive team in the league in terms of rating, by an absolute mile. With 2.3 points better than second place, which, you know, to give you an idea of the gap there, between second and 10th, that's the same points difference. So that's how dominant defensively we've been this year. So so it's all been built there, I think, and certainly around Rudy, who's you know, his form has just gone through the roof. You know, there was times last season where I really questioned whether we had even close to the same player that was at Utah. And I actually think this season he's hit a different level, and he's gone even above those Utah days. It's incredible, really. You know, in terms of his output defensively, obviously he's just picked up Defensive Player of the Year. He's the anchor of that whole team defense. And yeah, I think that's, we've kind of really bought into him, and and sort of leaning into our defense, really.
Yeah. So were you? What did you think when the Gobert trade happened, Joe? Were you okay with the trade? Were you happy, or were you like, I don't really know what we've done here, or where were you when the trade was kind of announced, or you know, the rumors were out there or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, going back, it's hard to kind of go back that far in your mind,
Yeah,
because so much has
couple of
changed.
years now, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it will be. You know, this summer it'll be a couple of years, and
yeah.
You know, I think when we made the trade, we were really excited to see how this would kind of form with D'Lo as well, because we were thinking that, you know, he's obviously has Allen, you know, at Brooklyn. He had that connection in the pick and roll. He was. We were hoping that we were going to get the best out of D'Lo, you know, with Rudy. I think the picks that we gave out were looked at as steep at that time, but also there was a lot of excitement around what we were bringing in with Rudy. You know, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. And yeah, I think we were all, you know, as Timberwolves fans, we were all really looking forward to it. So yeah, at that stage, you know, there was a lot of excitement and expectation, and even, I would say, last year's expectations at the start of the year were probably more in line with the reality of what's happened this year. You know, I think, you know, I think there was, you know, of course we needed to iron things out. We needed to make sure that the two big man thing was going to work, but it was also like, it felt like there was a bit of a guarantee, because of who Rudy was, that he was going to come in and make a big difference. And as I say, it didn't really work out that way. Certainly, there was absolutely zero click with D'Lo. In fact, it went the other way. It was actually a real negative, and D'Lo became, you know, this real negative sort of, you know, almost stirrer within the locker room, and was actually really detrimental to kind of Rudy having the confidence to play the way that he's playing now. So it's taken a long time, and I'm just glad, you know, obviously I'm delighted that we are where we are now with Rudy, but yeah, that was my thoughts when we first acquired him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I was flabbergasted at the trade at the time. I was just like, I couldn't just see anything past, you've give up so much. I mean, you could probably say now maybe that you overpaid, but with the success that you're having now, does it really matter? I think
No.
that's the thing, isn't it? It's like, yeah, maybe we did overpay, but to see how it works now, I mean, I just couldn't get over the trade at the time because I was like, you've already got Towns, so you're going to clog up the lane with two big guys. You're going to clog the paint up, aren't you? And then that's not going to give Edwards the room to do what he does. It just didn't make sense. But I think what the Timberwolves GM is it Tim Connolly? Tim Donnelly, isn't it? Connolly, sorry. What I think what he's realised is that's why he's in that job and I'm sitting here. Is I think he saw that the league was going bigger again instead of it was going smaller and it was all about space. And I think having two big men now is probably you probably need that now, and I think that's probably showing now, isn't it?
I think what we've seen this season for sure, and certainly in the playoffs, obviously, with the Timberwolves is just length generally is huge.
Absolutely.
Pardon the pun, but it's it is really important that you have the size, and the league is going that way, and I do feel that we really zigged while everyone was zagging, and we did buck the trend of small ball. A lot, obviously a lot of teams for a decade now have tried to replicate what Golden State did, obviously, and even the Rockets before them, going super small. But as you say, it's really starting to turn around now, and I think the uniqueness of Cat is what's made this a possibility. I think because if you think about two bigs, if you were to have Jonas Valanciunas in the middle with Rudy Gobert, it wouldn't work. But Cat is arguably the best shooting big man of all time. He's
self-proclaimed. I think is the
self-proclaimed. Absolutely, yeah.
Are you a Towns fan, Joe? Are you a fan? Were you a fan?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be. He's obviously been so consistent for so long for Timberwolves, and obviously we relied on him for so long, and I think we always knew, like Wolves fans always knew deep down, that he could never be a number one option if we were going to win the championship. But as what is now a third option, you couldn't have a better third option than Carl.
Very good third option.
I mean, incredible. He's and I say like that is third. It's kind of third best player, if you like, on our team. But in terms of his offensive output, a lot of the times it's equal to or sometimes better than Anthony Edwards, who's obviously the superstar that's emerging now. But yeah, he is. He's really well liked by the fan base, but there's also he's also had some really consistently silly fouls, offensive fouls. He's a he can come across a little bit, or he has done at times a little bit immature in the past. With some of the things kind of off the court and some of his actions on the court, but he's shown this season he's incredibly mature. In fact, he's just picked up the award today for I think it's the best sportsman.
It's the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar award.
He's doing all these things in the community, and and he has really matured. Certainly. So we all love Cat. He has his moments, but doesn't everyone?
No, absolutely, and like you touched on it, mate. I think this year I've been clamoring on about it for a couple of years now, and I'm like, probably Towns, but the whole team. I'm like, when they realize that Ant is the guy, they need to give him the keys and say, look, it's your team, bro, and we're going to follow you. And I think this year he's showing in the playoffs, isn't he? And you finished 56 and 26, didn't you? So you were in with a shout of the one seed, weren't you, to the final week? So no offense, Joe, but you haven't been up there for a while, have you? Do you know what I mean? So
no, well,
to be up there, it's been. I'm sure it's been a really nice change for you as a fan, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. It was, obviously KG days when we were anywhere near that level.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's 20 years ago.
20
mate.
years. Like, yeah, it's that long. No, it's been brilliant, and obviously, like you say, Anthony Edwards has really blossomed into. I'm sort of lost for words, really, in terms of what he is due to become. I know there's a lot of comparisons that are being branded around at the moment. I almost don't even know if there is a comparison. I think he honestly believes he will be the greatest basketball player that's ever lived.
Yeah. Almost unfair to him in a way, Joe. I think the comparisons. It's just like just enjoy what it is, and it's happening. Instead of trying to compare him, I mean, there are similarities, which I'm sure you're going to say, but just enjoy that it's happening, and just as a neutral, and even when I'm a Suns fan, so watching him, what he did to us in round one, you kind of got to respect it because he's like, he's the best player on the floor with Durant, Booker, and Beal. And he was the best guy on the court, and he was the best player in the whole of 4 games. And you're just like, just in kind of, I know I was gutted, obviously, being a Suns fan, but you kind of got to respect it because he was like, I am going to, take your heart out, basically. Yeah. You kind of got to respect somebody like that, and you go, hey, mate, he's done it, and he told you about it. And how can you not respect somebody like that, man?
No, it's incredible. And he's 22.
He's still 22. It's scary, bro. Scary.
He doesn't turn 23 until August. He's he's in his 4th year. This is his 4th year. Yeah. I honestly, I think he could go as far as he wants to go. He could do whatever he wants to do within the game. I know we're talking about being on being the best player on the court with Booker and KD. KD's coming towards the end of his career now. Maybe not quite the KD of old. Obviously, shows plenty of flashes still, but but I think with Booker, it's it just became so clear. Sorry to rub it in again.
No. Honestly, no. There's no ill will. I hate watching it at the time, but you kind of just sitting there and going, he was, he was just unbelievable, and you kind of go, I respect people like that. You were better in that first round series, Joe, in every department, and you thoroughly deserved the sweep. I mean, we had a go in the final game, but in that last 5 minutes, Edwards was just like, yeah, I'm going to take this game now. You guys are going to go home now, and it's an early holiday for you guys. And for me, I would just respect players like that who just come in and just go and just through force of will just take games away from teams. And throughout players throughout history, there's not many people who can do that. And Edwards is emerging as one of those people who can just literally just take games away from teams. You've got to respect it, man.
He's a killer, and he's just ruthless. Like he doesn't just want to beat you. He wants to literally rip the soul out of your body, stand over it, and laugh at it on the floor. He's just and he does it with a smile on his face, and everyone loves him. He's just this. he's got that killer of Kobe and MJ, but he's also like the most charismatic, amazing leader, amazing teammate. He's, as I say, he's always got a smile on his face, makes everyone laugh. He can do, there is no limit to Anthony Edwards, and I think that series was, parts of that we've seen all year, but we knew from the two playoff series in the previous 2 years when he was 20 and 21, Memphis first, and then Denver last year, his level raised another notch, throughout those series. So we knew coming into this there was going to be there was the Anthony Edwards factor, and we knew that there was going to be even more of a step up. And I think that started, just I guess going back to the question of this season, that started with Team USA and and playing in FIBA, and I think his confidence just being around those players, but being the best player, and there was no doubt, all of the guys that went there, Halliburton, Brunson,
Ingram was there, wasn't he, as well?
Ingram, that's Anthony Edwards' team.
He started coming off the bench, didn't he? But by like the third game, he was starting. So I think he showed them, didn't he, when he got there? And like Steve Kerr said, I think he says we can't keep him off the floor. He's like he's ridiculous, like it's a ridiculous player. And like you say, he's kind of taken that, hasn't he? And everybody's on about the summer, aren't they, with the Olympics? I mean, how could you not start now, Edwards, as shooting guard? I think he's just taken that, hasn't he? He's taken that. He's like, I'm the shooting guard, mate. Yeah, that's me.
He has, and he took that off Booker, obviously in that series. And I think that was it. That was a mini. That was a mini game within the series, and he just, he like we say, he just totally took that, he's been incredible. He's been incredible all season long, and I think if we sort of the big difference between last year and this year, I mean, there's been so many differences, but I think it's just the maturity. Not of Ant, but of the whole team. Because Ant isn't the most mature. He's, as we say, he's only 22, and he does have his moments. But the foundation of our team with Mike Conley and Rudy Gobert and Nickeil Alexander-Walker and these other people that are coming off the bench, and they have set a foundation that we are. I mean, we didn't lose more than 2 games in a row all regular season, which is, it wasn't done from any other team. We last year we were beat 3 times by Portland. We got beat twice by Washington. We got beat twice by Charlotte. We got beat twice by the Pistons. This year we have wiped the floor with those teams. And we've taken big scalps against big teams, like Boston coming to us earlier in the season, and and then throughout the year, just ticking them off as we go. So the maturity in that foundation started from last year with Mike Conley coming in.
Underrated signing, I think, Conley.
Oh yeah,
I mean, it's not really a guy who kind of doesn't raise a lot of highlights or headlines, but just an underrated signing. Well, one of many, I think. Mate, looking at your roster, I think just a solid veteran who knows. He's been in a lot of big games and things like that. I think that's been a really underrated addition for you, Joe. I think.
I mean, if just to recap that signing, so we got in return for D'Lo 3 second-round picks, Mike Conley, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker.
Wow, that looks pretty good now, doesn't it?
Looks pretty damn good.
Yeah, I don't think
And
Lakers are able to get rid of D'Lo now, would they? Even if they
yeah,
wanted to.
and I think it's like D'Lo used to drive me mad because he was so incredibly inconsistent, and I
Sure.
think the inconsistency. It was a bit like Wiggins at times. It was like you could turn it on and turn it off.
Yeah.
But with D'Lo, it was just that. It was that bit more. He was. As I say, he was a detractor really of the culture that we were trying to build. He was, he was quite damaging to the locker room, and I think you switch that out with arguably the best vet in the league in Mike Conley, and obviously Nickeil Alexander-Walker has become, one of the best players in the league off the bench, certainly defensively. We've that's just an absolute home run of a trade. So yeah, that was certainly, as I say, the real foundation of how this team has made big strides in the regular season for sure this year.
Well, yeah, and you've taken it straight into the playoffs, and you haven't lost a game yet, Joe. So
I
know. You must be. Are you surprised at that, or is
I am
just
surprised.
going exactly as it should, or?
Yeah, I'm surprised with now the Denver series being 2-0 up and obviously beating them twice on the road. We always knew that we kind of had Denver's number, in the regular season and also in the playoffs last year. We by their account were the toughest opponent that they played against in the playoff runs, and we didn't have Naz Reid. Jaden McDaniels punched a wall and broke his hand.
Yeah, that was right. Yeah.
So we didn't have, and Rudy obviously wasn't in any way the same player. He also punched Kyle Anderson, one game before, the play-in game. So we knew that with Bruce Brown leaving them, with us getting so much stronger, with us beating them at their place already in the regular season. We actually lost at home, and we missed. I can't remember exactly who we missed, but it was I think it was 3 of our starters. We were down to the bare bones of our team, and we lost. We lost in overtime in the regular season, and they were throwing everything at us. And I think there was just some moments, certainly within the last 12 months where we knew that we would have an advantage of sorts. But to weigh that up, they're the defending champions. They've got the best player in the league, in the world. We're also coming off the back of the Phoenix series where Phoenix beat us, 3 times. Was it 3 times in the regular season?
Yeah, three. I was feeling good before round 1, Joe. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, that'll be okay. Yeah, 3-0, it'll be fine. Yeah, and then just completely different, a different team and a completely different animal.
Yeah,
sure.
Exactly. So we didn't want to fall in that trap either of thinking, oh well, regular season, we've, and last playoffs we performed pretty well against them, but also we were sort of quietly confident. So that has been a surprise, yes, to be 2-0 up in that series with them having home court advantage, but the Phoenix series, of course, it was surprising to sweep, but I thought we would beat you over the course of a series, because I just think the depth was, overwhelmingly stronger, in terms of what we could bring off the bench, and maybe the starting 5 were fairly even, but yeah, we obviously took care of that, and then and then we are where we are, 6 games unbeaten, and coming home for 7 and 8.
Wow.
Crazy.
Hopefully, I don't want to tempt fate for you, Joe, but things are looking good, aren't they? I haven't seen this Denver team last year or this year, as you've kind of got them out of. They seem really like frustrated and all over the place, which doesn't really happen with that Denver team. They're always quite calm and composed, and the swarming defense from you guys. I mean, game 2, the defense in that first half was just. There's very few games where you see something like that, where you are just absolutely all over them defensively, and just so like as a unit, just so connected as a team, and just like Denver had to work so hard to score any baskets. And it comes from your best player, man. I mean, Edwards, he once scored the opposition's best player. I love that. He's like, give me Murray. I'll guard Murray. I mean, and people will follow him, won't they? People are following him. They're doing it now, aren't they? And when your best player is up for doing that, I mean, people will gravitate towards that, won't they? And they will follow him, and they'll be like, well, if he's doing it, then I'm doing it. I'm going to do it as well. It's amazing to watch, man, at the moment.
Well, I saw an interview with Naz Reid actually earlier on today. That he was saying that JJ Redick, he was saying that he used to hate defense. He used to just hate it, and because of the culture that has been created over the last couple of years since Rudy's come in, everybody's bought into defense. Anthony Edwards, I think he's actually quite overrated as a team defender. He's got a lot to do, like a lot to learn. He does switch off, but 1-to-1, it is just like he's unplayable. In a 1-to-1 situation, when the game's on the line, as you say, we've got absolute lockdown defenders in Jaden McDaniels and Nikhil Alexander-Walker, and I wouldn't mind putting them on the other team's best player. But if I had a choice, I would put Anthony Edwards on their best player.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's taken a massive strides in all areas of his game, but yeah, defensively for sure.
They just took Murray out of the game, didn't they? Like his head wasn't in it, and he's chucking heat pads onto courts and things, and it just completely just took him out of the game. He was that frustrated. I think the job they did on him was fantastic in games 1 and 2 of this series, mate. Like you say, there's a long way to go still, but just the job they did to win the first 2 games, away from home, you've got to be ecstatic, Joe, haven't you?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely made up. And I think again, going to the maturity point, at times even this season, I don't know if you saw this throughout the season or any of your viewers did, but Rudy, giving the money, hand gesture to the referee. We've fell into traps of where referees are blowing the whistle, on every play. We fell into the trap of feeling like they're against us, but actually, because we're so physical as a team, if the referees are swallowing the whistle, which they were, in the first couple of games, in this series, and just letting the 2 teams play, which is, what referees obviously do in playoffs. That's a massive advantage to us.
It plays into your hands, definitely, mate, doesn't it?
Yeah. It really does. So, it'll be really interesting to see, how we, if because obviously they are, the NBA champions, so they are going to come with some variation. They're going to throw different looks at the Wolves in the next couple of games, and I'd just be really interested to see what they can do, because I think with the Phoenix series it almost became like, okay, there is nothing we can do. We've tried to do different things. We've tried going small with KD at the 5. We've tried we've tried all these different things, and we don't have any answers. I think that's the way that it's looked for Denver in the first 2 games. I'd be surprised if if game 3 and 4 stay that way, but it might do.
Oh yeah, you won game 2 without the defensive player of the year, mate, as well, which
Yeah,
it didn't matter. It didn't matter
yeah.
because you got Naz Reid who can just slot in and just do a fine job as well. And I think he deserves his sixth man of the year honors, doesn't he?
He does. He certainly does. Sorry, I've just
That's all right.
shone the light on. No, he does. I think he does because I think it was Malik Monk's award up until the last kind of 4 to 6 weeks of the season when he got injured, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
I think what tipped it for Nas was that he was doing it on both sides of the ball. Obviously Malik is an amazing offensive player, but Nas is just he's made huge strides defensively. As I say, he didn't like defense when he first came into the league, and Nas Reid's another. I could go on forever about Nas Reid. He came into the league overweight. He was undrafted. He couldn't play defense. He was, he was just total. He wasn't even. He didn't look anything like an NBA player when he first came. But obviously, he had this potential. He was a McDonald's All-American, and they took a calculated risk, obviously, on Nas. Got him on a 4-year. What we call a Gupta special contract after Sachin Gupta that was in the head office, and got him on a 4-year very low contract. And he has, he's become what he is today, and just a real force offensively. He plays like a wing, really. He's obviously the size of a power forward center, but his handles, his awareness on the court, his positioning, he's also becoming much more of a sort of a linker of a ball player as well. He's quite creative, he's an amazing player and a great guy as well. Minnesota just absolutely love him. The whole fan base loves him.
Yeah.
Nas Reid.
I love the fact that his nickname's 2 words, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Like you say, it seems like a real fan favorite. Those kind of bench guys usually are fans really take to. There's obviously the big names and things on your team, but those guys who've had that journey, like you say, and come off the bench, fans really take to them kind of players, don't they? And love them by hook or crook, as they say. But I think Nas Reid kind of slots into that role, doesn't he?
He does. He's a real fan's favorite, and the Nas Reid towels that were given away a few games ago at the end of the regular season, they're appearing all over the world now, and
brilliant.
And you've got local pizzerias in Minneapolis that have got signs up outside of the store saying "honk if you love Nas Reid," and it's a vibe now. Everyone's it's like almost a greeting. Like people shake each other's hands. Nas Reid. It's it's just
awesome. Love it. I love it, man. Like you say, you've had some real dark days, haven't you? So for it to kind of turn around a bit, it makes it even more worthwhile, doesn't it? So, if you follow a team for so long, you usually go kind of through the peaks and valleys, as they say, and for it to kind of all turn around now, and it makes it more it makes it worthwhile, doesn't it? That's what we're doing as fans, mate.
It does. I mean, if you even look at 3 years ago, we were we were pretty heavily reliant on Juancho Hernan Gomez's 3-point shooting. That was a big a big deal.
Yeah,
We had
yeah.
our sort of mid-season superstar signing was Alan Crabb. It was dark
Wow.
days. It was dark
Ouch.
days. And
Yeah, yeah,
I think we've had moments like we've had false dawns really with especially around Ricky when he was drafted. Obviously, we missed out
yeah.
on Steph. Um,
Wasn't going to mention it, Joe, but as you did, mate. Two point guards in that draft, mate, and not one was Steph Curry. I mean,
oh, yeah,
I bet it still stings, mate. I'm not going to lie.
it does. But
Yeah.
everything happens for a reason. I think
There you go, mate.
Ricky,
Yeah, that's it.
yeah, Ricky's obviously a cult hero, maybe even more than Nas Reed with Timberwolves fans
Yeah.
and him, him and Kevin Love. There was a time where
Yeah.
we were trending towards being a sort of perennial playoff team.
Sure.
Not going to say we would have won the chip at that point, but we were a consistently good side. But then injuries. Ricky had a really bad injury.
Yeah.
Famously, Kevin Love with his knuckle press ups. He a bit like Jaden McDaniel's incident. So
dear.
yeah, we've had some false starts. Obviously, Jimmy coming in as well. Which
Oh,
was
yeah.
yeah. No,
Entertaining.
it was certainly entertaining. It was
Yeah.
certainly entertaining. Yeah, it was Jimmy's
Yeah,
world.
the infamous shoot around scrimmage. It's
Yeah,
yeah.
just absolute madness. Some of the stories.
Don't think he was a fan of Towns. I don't think.
No, and and he obviously you know what you're buying into. I mean, Tibbs was a coach at that point. He knew what he was coming into with Jimmy, and
Yeah.
and he obviously he brought us into the playoffs for the first time in God knows how long. I think at the time it was about 15, 16 years.
I think it was one of the longest droughts, wasn't it? I think at the time.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, in fact, it was a little bit less than that. I think it was about 13 years. But yeah, obviously a long drought. And he he got us there, but it was very Jimmy driven, and and he was very critical, even if not outwardly, even though he was when he left, just in body language and again just sort of that D'Lo situation, was a negative impact on the on the team, and Carl Anthony Towns that we'd kind of put as a second option to Jimmy. I don't think Jimmy thought that Cat could lace his boots really, and certainly Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah.
So so there's been some interesting times, but yeah, I'm chuffed to bits that we are where we are, and it doesn't even feel real, to be honest with you.
Have you been watching the games live, Joe, or are you catching up the next day? Or
yeah, I catch up the next day mainly. So I'm a dad of two, and I tend to, what I do is hide the scores, as we all do. Squint when you open the app, the NBA app, so you don't see anything that you don't want to see. And then just turn off your notifications on Twitter, obviously. And sit there and watch it with a brew with my youngest in 6 o'clock in the morning on Saturday morning or whatever. But yeah, that's generally. Obviously, we watch what we can, but it's kind of with the tip-off times the way they are. Generally it's kind of past 12 o'clock. So
we didn't think this through, Joe, when we chose our teams, did we, mate?
We didn't.
Like 3 a.m., aren't they? 3 a.m. tip-off times. You're like, I didn't think this through, man. I needed like Boston or Philly with midnight or something. But, didn't think that through, mate.
And we're virtually on the East Coast anyway, as we are. We should really be getting favourable times, but obviously all of our games are Western Conference, or most of them. But yeah, it's one of just catch up in the morning, and You know, and
I mean, you do what you can, mate. To do what you can. You know, whether you
absolutely.
catch up later on or at the time, it's it doesn't make you any less of a fan for me. You
No.
put it, you fit it in when you can, and that's it. And so you probably touched on it already, Joe. But you kind of biggest team surprises or disappointments. I'm sure you've probably covered a couple already, mate. To be honest, but have you got something you want to particularly point out?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest surprise of this season would be the way that the bigs have all worked together.
Yeah.
In comparison to last year, I think you could probably actually say the biggest surprise would be the re-emergence of Rudy Gobert as a dominant defensive player of the year.
Yeah.
It looked really disjointed last year. Obviously, I've placed a bit of blame on D'Lo there, but it wasn't just that at all. It was. I mean, Anthony Edwards, I think he assisted Rudy Gobert something ridiculous, like only 15 times last season in the whole season.
Wow, really? Okay.
There was zero chemistry between those two in terms of link up. So to go from that to what it is now is a very welcome surprise. But also, it's Cat and Nars as well, because Cat's spent his career playing the centre position, really. I mean, he's a shooting centre, so there has been bigs that he's played with, like KG at the start, and Taj Gibson used to almost play like a false centre.
Yeah.
But he has always really been the centre of our team, and he's been asked to guard Grayson Allen in in your series. He's been asked to guard wings, and in the way that he's been able to adapt and be a key cog defensively in this defensive juggernaut of a team is a credit to him. That is again a huge surprise of this season, how quickly and how well he's adjusted. He's also been injured for a large part of the season.
Yeah, he missed time, didn't he, in the new year? Can't remember what injury it was. You might be able to tell me, Joe. But
so he had a calf injury.
that was it. Yeah.
So he missed a lot of time. In the regular season, and then for him to come back and with that kind of injury, be running around, shooters and wings, it's really impressive. So how he's transitioned into the four so easily, really, and the consistency of Naz Reid filling that four spot as well. It's just worked perfectly and beyond, I think, anyone's expectations. Even Tim Conley's and Chris Finch. I don't think they maybe would have thought that they would have gelled as quickly and as well as they have, over the course of this year. So that's probably my biggest, welcome surprise, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Any disappointments? I suppose you don't have any, do you?
Yeah.
If there is many things you could say, mate, really, is it?
Not really. I think there's I think we get frustrated because we have such amazing local reporters for Timberwolves. I mean, obviously I only know the reporters I know through Wolves, and I don't know other teams' beat writers as nearly as well, obviously, as I do Timberwolves. But the access that they get, the content that they put out, the quality of the work that they do, the variety of the information they provide fans is incredible. And I think what's been slightly disappointing is the national media's sort of pick up of this team now they've reached the playoffs. So there's total surprise to things that really we've kind of seen all year. And I think that is just a bit, at times it's just a bit disappointing that that we came into your series with the Suns, and a lot of people were basically writing us off. We had home court advantage, and a lot of the national media were writing us off.
Yeah.
If you have a look at the national media predictions before the start of this series, there was the ESPN presenters. There was 11 of them, and 10 of them all predicted Denver, and a lot of them were in 5 games, in 6 games, I think I think it would I think it's great that everyone's kind of that everyone's waking up to it now, but yeah, it was a little bit disappointing to almost feel like we've been written off.
Yeah, I mean, I think unfortunately, mate, that's just been in a quote unquote small market, isn't it? Where you don't get the splash, do you, at ESPN like you do if you're in LA or Boston or Chicago or one of them bigger market teams, let's say. But people are catching up now, mate, and I think Edwards announced himself on the world stage, didn't he? Yes. I've got a nephew who follows NBA, and he was asking me the other week, "Who's this Anthony Edwards guy?" So people are getting to know now, mate, which is a better late than never. And you can say, "Well, yeah, it's always been good, mate. You should have watched him earlier," kind of thing. You know what I mean? So yeah, good on you, Joe. Yeah, good on you, mate. So
yeah. You can't watch everyone. No, I was just going to say, you can't, obviously, you can't watch all teams. You can't know all players. You can't, but, there's been total shock around, how we lock players. I mean, they've been doing that all year. There's been, people saying that Rudy Gobert can't play on, can't defend on the perimeter. Well, yeah, he's been doing that all year.
Yeah, I think we can put that rumor to that myth to bed, Joe, can't we?
We can.
Fantastic, and
yeah, and it's comfort again. It's just confidence. But he was surrounding himself in Utah with a perimeter defense that was, they weren't really defenders, and he was often made to look the scapegoat at the end of possessions where he was charging out to the 3-point line, trying to put a hand up in someone's face, and and no one's going to look good in that situation.
I don't think Mitchell was ever known for his perimeter defense, was he?
No.
So yeah, do you know what I mean? It's a lot harder, isn't it, when you somebody who's maybe not quite. But I think that this team are just so in sync right now, aren't they? And that's what the playoffs are about sometimes. It's playing your best at the right time, and and the sky's the limit right now, isn't it? It's why not us kind of thing, isn't it? Sometimes it's about playing the right basketball, your best basketball at the right time of year, man. And so who knows? Why not us, mate? And then all of a sudden you wake up and
you're NBA champions.
Yeah, I don't want to jinx it too much, Joe, so I don't want to say much more for you, mate, honestly, because it must be great for you, man. I can't fault it, mate. Especially, but you used to seeing the same teams, it can get a bit samey, can't it? Having a different team than usual, kind of do this is really cool, I think, and good for the NBA in general and fans as well. I think it's really cool, man.
It is good, and I think I'm hoping that small market, obviously you talking about national media, you have some idiots that are like, Anthony Edwards is, going to have to go to New York or going to have to go to LA. Well,
you're always going to get that, man. You're always going to get that.
He's not. And
we're getting it now. We're getting it now with Booker, mate, because they need to break up that big three now, and Booker wants to go to New York. You're going to hear that now. Unfortunately, that's kind of how it goes, isn't it? Yeah,
it is. But but yeah, I mean, it is. I think the NFL have got it, have got it down in terms of, there are obviously some teams that you would call small markets are not big, that are not, popular destinations or the most attractive of places to be. And I think they've created, these teams that have been extremely successful. And really the NBA, I think, has had a bit of that with the Spurs. It's had a bit of that, with one or two others, but generally speaking, there's been some dominant forces in the NBA. With obviously Boston and the guys out on the West, with LA and Golden State, but I think Minnesota, though it's obviously cold. It's not the biggest. It's not the biggest market.
No.
It's not the biggest market. It's still, it's got a fantastic fan base, brilliant fan base, super
underrated crowd, man. I'll be honest. Seeing obviously watched a lot of Minnesota playoff games the last few weeks. But yeah, underrated crowd, mate. I didn't think it was like that. Like I say, I obviously don't watch as many games as you, mate. That was something that stood out to me. I'm like, man, this crowd's well up for this. Like, so yeah, underrated crowd, mate. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think they've been crying out for this for so long.
Craving it, mate. Craving it for so long, mate.
Yeah. They kind of, it's kind of one of those, if you build it, they will come type franchise, type cities. Really, it is a basketball town. Really, obviously, I know they've got the Vikings, and but I think basketball is at the heart of Minnesota, and you're seeing that now with the fan base. They're just absolutely mad for this run and this team, and and all the characters that we have in it. So yeah, it's a good vibe at the minute for sure at Target Center. Yeah,
absolutely. Shout out to Chris Finch as well. I think Chris Finch has done a really fantastic job, because I wasn't a massive Chris Finch fan before this season, but I think the job that he's done this year has to be. I mean, I think he was a nominee, wasn't he, for Coach of the Year? I think. I felt fully deserved. He's orchestrating this 2-0 lead while sitting on the bench because he can't get up because he had knee surgery, didn't he? When Connolly ran into him as one of the Phoenix Suns game in the first series. He's sitting on the bench and the assistant coach is doing it, which makes it even more impressive, Joe.
Yeah, and Rudy out obviously in the last game, like we said.
Yeah, absolutely. So
and again, it's just this mindset of next man up, and and just
belief,
just belief. Yeah, exactly. And that's all driven by by Ann, obviously. But you've got this every single, because we went through the whole regular season without losing 3 games in a row. You know that in a playoff series, if you play the defending champions with 2 games in a run away from home, you're probably going to win one of those. Now, obviously, we've won both of them, which is a massive bonus, but we've got that inbuilt confidence now that we can take into these playoffs. And so Finch, like Chris Finch, he's just done wonders, and he's such a player's coach. He places so much trust in the playoffs, probably too much in past times with quite a young team and a young leader, especially last year. He doesn't run too many plays from the we don't run too many kind of structured plays. It's all kind of the reading what the offense has given them at the time. And we knew that if this continued, that would get better as everyone's kind of basketball IQ grows, the kind of more mature the team gets. But he's just allowed for that development and that growth. And everybody would just run through brick walls for him. He's such a great leader. He's got everyone right where he needs them to be. He tests people in just the right way. He gives people slack, if needed. Incredibly hard on Anthony Edwards, but he'll wrap his arm around a Monte Morris or a Jordan McLaughlin, or a Kyle Anderson or whoever. He's just got the balance perfect. And
it's knowing which ones to do that with, isn't it? Which ones to put your arm around and which ones to say, come on, and it's knowing which ones to do that with, isn't it, mate? Like you say, man. We're a player's coach, and absolutely. But he's done a really good job, hasn't he?
Yeah, incredible. And it right from the very start, he's come in, and you could just feel the difference, because we had Ryan Saunders, the son of Flip Saunders, before, and he never had a head coaching job before. Obviously there was a connection with Flip, but he was in the way that he was leading the team. There wasn't that belief, and there wasn't that there wasn't that kind of experience in what he's bringing to the table, and then Chris Finch comes through, and he's come from he's come from New Orleans. He had Boogie Cousins and Anthony Davis, so he's done the two big man thing. He's made that work in a different ways. He's had the experience at Denver. He's obviously a legend of British coaching.
He used to coach over here, didn't he? I think he was Great Britain coach once as well, wasn't he? I think
he was, for the London Olympics.
That's right, mate. He's been around, hasn't he?
He has. He went all the way. So he started at Sheffield, and he was a player when he came over to UK, and then he did amazingly with Sheffield, and then went on to coach across Europe. So coached in Germany and all over the place, and then he found his way into the G League team at the time, and then into the NBA on the coaching staff, and he just as I say, he's a very offensive minded coach, but also he's very well balanced as well, and he's got a great team around him. So he's been brilliant.
Absolutely. So we're kind of moving away from the kind of the kind of season. Do you buy jerseys, Joe? Have you got any jerseys?
I do. Yeah, I do. I've got a Timberwolves jersey. So the missus went for a little trip to London to the NBA store.
Nice.
Couple of seasons back. So I feel pretty fortunate really to be having an Anthony Edwards #1 jersey.
Nice.
I think that'll probably be worth some bob in further down the line.
Absolutely. Get him going up all the time, mate, I think, as we speak, mate. Yeah, absolutely.
That's my version of stocks, But so I've got that, and I used to have others, when I was younger as well. But that's the one I rock for now, from the Wolves. But I think the classic Wolves jerseys of the 90s, with the tree lined border.
So cool. Man. Yeah. So cool. They still bring it back every now and again. That's when you know it's good, don't they? It's kind of like the Sun's Storm, the Sun's Burst one. They just bring it back every 10 years because it's that good, don't they? Just one of those things are just kind of timeless, aren't they? Those designs, and
they are.
The Wolves ones definitely definitely one of them, isn't it? For sure.
It is. It is. Yeah. And obviously, it reminds everyone of that time. And
mate, KG and Marbury, then, mate. They were the boys then, man, weren't they? For sure.
They were. Yeah.
What could have been, mate? What could have been?
Yeah. There was, there was definitely a lot of potential around that time for sure. And it was exciting times. Obviously, he wasn't that far off being from when he was drafted, and so I think that brings back a lot of nostalgia to Wolves fans, and that's an amazing jersey. I think outside of Wolves, the Black Mamba jersey that the Lakers wore in the bubble, I think that was a class touch, but also it was a pretty gorgeous looking jersey.
Clean, just works, doesn't it? They when they go on sale, mate, they don't last long.
No, I can imagine. Yeah. So so I've not got the biggest collection, but I keep my eye out on on all the second-hand guys that do a great job with the jerseys. So I might pick up one or two more.
Yeah, I particularly like the one in it was like 2018, 2019, the purple one.
Yeah, the Prince one.
Yeah, that was cool. The kind of concept behind it and everything was really cool, and the court that went with it. It just kind of worked. Like that was a really cool concept. It was. Like you say, man, them late 90s ones, mate, they're the ones, aren't they? That one, and it'll just sell. That'll always sell. That jersey will, won't it? I think it's just one of those, isn't it? That just works. It just the design of it. It's just one of those that kind of just stand the test of time, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. No, it's a good one. It's a good one for sure. What are you? What do you rock? What's your jersey selection?
Well, I don't know if I dare say on the podcast how many jerseys I've got, bro.
Really?
Yeah, I've got a few.
Wow.
It starts with a 5, put it that way. So, I mean, I've accumulated them over the years, but I've got it's into the 50s now, man. Which,
wow.
I may have a problem, but it's the Suns, mate. It's their fault, man. They keep coming up with these sweet jerseys, and I'm nice. I'm gonna have to get that one as well one time. And it just snowballs from there. But I've got a lot of ones over the years that are non-Suns ones. I only buy Suns ones now, to be fair. I'd need to have a sort through really, and maybe rein it in. Yeah, it's either jerseys or shoes, mate. For me, it's either one or the other. So I have got some Anthony Edwards shoes en route as we speak, mate. Because I thought, well, you're not going to be able to get any of them soon because his popularity's going up. So he's just had his first shoe out, hasn't he? Just recently. The AE1. Yeah, so I've got some of them en route.
Nice.
They won't last much longer. So no, I've got a few. But like I say, I only buy Suns ones now. But they keep bringing out really cool jerseys, and I have to have it. And, I really should. Should speak therapy about that, bro. I'll be honest. But there you go. You got to spend your money on something.
You do. Yeah.
Who needs to eat when you've got loads of jerseys? So lastly, before we kind of wrap up, Joe, apart from obviously Anthony Edwards and your boys in Minnesota, do you kind of find yourself gravitating to anyone else in the league that's not on your team?
Yeah, I really like the guys that just get on with it, and they are top level players, but they're not. They are who they are. They're not. SGAs, Jalen Brunson, Jokic. These guys who are not like they're not singing and dancing about all the success, and they just put in performance after performance, and they're just consistent, solid. So that's kind of who I gravitate to. I think SGA and Ant are really the future faces of the league.
I think it feels like there's a changing of the guard, Joe. I don't know if you feel like this. Do you know what I mean? It's like, we went out the first round and there was no LeBron, no Curry, no Durant. So it feels like there's a bit of a changing of the guard coming, is it? Because, them players aren't going to be here forever, are they? They come into the end of their careers, aren't they? And these new guys are coming up. And I think, and I don't know if you agree, but I think most of the top players in the league were all from overseas, and I think people were looking around, going, "Well, who's going to be the USA kind of shining light?" And I think Ant-Man's just kind of just burst through and gone, "Well, yeah, I can do that. Then, yeah, I can be the guy." Or in SGA, I think he's Canadian, isn't he? So
yes, yeah.
So I think USA were looking round. Was it going to be Tatum? Was it going to be Brunson? Maybe, but I think Ant's just come through and just like, oh yeah, no, I'll take that. I'll take that mantra. I'll take that title or whatever.
Yeah. I think he's going to. Obviously, I think it's just amazing the influence of the rest of the world now on the league, and the face of the league doesn't necessarily have to be American anymore, which I think was maybe the case in in previous years, in previous decades, but I think now it's just there's so many in Luka and obviously Jokic and SGA, like we say, there's players that. I'm not saying that Jokic is young, but he's at the peak of his powers and probably will be for the next 4 or 5 years. Sure. But the guys that are coming through, I think obviously Victor and Ant and SGA, I think are really the ones that are going to be the dominant force. The Stephs, the KDs of the future, really.
Absolutely.
So it'd be interesting to see how it develops, and I think the Olympics in the summer. If you think about Jordan's rise, it was it's very similar in ways, and obviously the dream team. I think he's gonna be coming into an Olympic team with LeBron James, Stephen Curry, Kevin Durant, all those players, like Mike did, at that point within his career, and then he became who he became. I can sort of feel like in the Olympics, he might just go on to be, the best player in that team. So if he does do that, I don't, he's unquestionably the face of the league. It's but yeah, it is a change of the guard for sure. And I think the rise of these guys is here and now, really.
No, absolutely. I don't know if you watched Netflix. They had like the NFL kind of quarterback show where they followed a few quarterbacks during the season. I don't know if you watched that show, but they're doing a similar one for the NBA, aren't they?
And Ant's in it, isn't he?
Yeah, and Ant's going to be in it, and I think he's going to come. He's going again, probably going to get another bump through that, isn't he?
He is.
I think there's a couple of other guys. I think Tatum's going to be on it. LeBron, Jimmy Butler, maybe. And I think I can't remember. There's another guy as well. I can't remember which one now, but I think Ant's going to get another bump through that because, like you say, he's such an engaging character, isn't he? That people are going to like him, and I think he's going to pop off the screen, isn't he? And I'm sure he's liking the attention as well. Whole season as well. Do you know what I mean? So keep a watch out for that, man. I'm not sure when it's going to come out, but that's going to be something I think NBA fans will enjoy watching as well, man, for sure.
And he's everyone's favorite player, isn't he? He's your favorite. He's your favorite player's favorite player. He's at that point now where he's obviously a threat for the likes of obviously Draymond Green. Has been on his podcast and all these people on coming out in the media and saying KD coming out and saying that he's his favorite player as well. And he's got he's already, you know, he's been in movies. He's got a really successful shoe line. You know, he's got, you know, all of these things now that he's starting to build his portfolio of stuff, you know, to become, you know, not just basketball. And you know, I think again, when I talk about like the ceiling is just non-existent for him, I think he's a character that could transcend just basketball. You know, in the same way that, you know, Tiger has for golf, or Jordan has for, you know, basketball, you know, Ronaldo, whatever. You know, it's that he's that personality. He's at that level.
Absolutely.
You know, I think in terms of you know, charisma. So yeah, so exciting times for sure.
Absolutely, mate. Sky's the limit, mate. Sky's the limit.
It
Why
is.
not? Absolutely.
For
But
sure.
yeah, so I think that's all we've got time for. Unless there's anything else, Joe, you'd like to say at the moment?
No. Well, thanks for having me on, and yeah, pleasure speaking to you and talking Wolves. Fingers crossed, you know, the next time we come on, we'll be NBA champions. You never know.
Absolutely. Hey, mate, why not? Like you say, why not us, mate? Somebody's got to win it, mate. So at the moment, mate, I think you know, you're playing the right kind of basketball, aren't you? And so why not you guys? But thanks a lot, Joe, for agreeing to do it, mate. It's much appreciated. And do you want to tell the people who are listening or watching where they can find you on the socials, mate?
Yeah, so there's just one place really. So I'm on Twitter. My handle is TimberwolvesUK. So yeah, you can catch me there. And it's been great. You know, like the community is not the biggest. You know, I'm sure it will become a little bit bigger if we do well. Yeah. But it's, you know, it's great to have not just a British community of people that we speak to, but also like an international you know, community of Timberwolves fans. It's obviously everyone knows Timberwolves Brazil now. But it's you know, we are part of that community, and it's you know, it's been great to connect with you know, the fans from not just Minnesota.
Have you connected with any other UK Timberwolves fans, Joe? Or?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few. There's you know,
good.
We've got a Scottish account.
Nice.
We've got we've got a few. We've got a few based in the UK, and it's yeah, it's a nice. As I say, it's a nice group, and you have your kind of you know, core people that, you know, you interact with mostly on X as it is now. But yeah, it's a nice follow, and obviously we've all been through the pain of you know, of the last couple of decades. So it's great to see. You know, it's great to see now everyone enjoying it.
No, absolutely. I thought I was the only Suns fan in the UK, but yeah, there's actually a few more of us, and it's kind of cool when you kind of, you know, get to connect, because you've got something in common, haven't you? And you know, you've always got, you know, that same thing in common, haven't you? You kind of supporting the same team and the same goal as people say. So yeah, it's cool, isn't it, to kind of connect with the similar-minded people and stuff, isn't it? So I can imagine, it definitely this year's been. Like you say, a lot more enjoyable than previous years. So enjoy it, Joe. Is probably the best thing I can say, mate. Enjoy it, mate, while it lasts, mate. Hopefully it continues, my friend. So,
hopefully.
Fingers crossed for you, man. Fingers crossed. Yeah. So thanks very much, Joe, for doing that. So yeah, like I say, guys, this will be dropping on Monday, sometime in the Monday, and I'll tag you in, Joe, if that's okay with you, and so we can push that out. But yeah, thanks very much for doing that. Much appreciated, mate. So yeah, thanks very much, guys. Yeah, we'll be back again on following Monday. Well, we'll be doing the live show. We'll be covering more of the playoffs. We'll probably be into the conference finals maybe by then. Who knows? But take care, guys, and we'll see you again very soon.